Aloha, I'm Samantha Jackson. Welcome to this presentation on constructivism. Constructivism is one of the many educational philosophies out there. It is one of the primary ones. It is also a pedagogy. Constructivism states that learning is a process and that knowledge is constructed by the student through active learning. So let's contrast educational models, constructivism versus traditional. So when it comes to curriculum, in the traditional model, curriculum is content driven. You've heard the phrases banking, education, and the transition model. That's where content is deposited or transmitted. The constructivist model view of curriculum is that a curriculum should be driven by a student's doing, their experiencing, as well as choice. Now, when it comes to teachers, in the traditional model, a teacher is a transmitter. They are the authority. They are the depositors of content. In the constructivist model, a teacher is to be the facilitator. They are to be a thought provoker by developing good guiding questions. Heard that one before, huh? All right. A student in the traditional education model is the receiver. They are the listener. But they start out as the tabula rasa, the blank slate. So when a student starts out in the traditional education model, they're considered to have nothing there, and that the teacher deposits, transmits the information. In the constructivist model, the student is the doer. They are supposed to be a participant. They are supposed to experience their learning. There are two phrases that are important: dissonance and disequilibrium. A student has prior knowledge, and when that prior knowledge meshes with new knowledge, new information, new experiences, the student experiences disequilibrium and dissonance. That's something we always want a student to be able to do. In assessments, the traditional model is generally the classic test, multiple choice. But the goal of traditional education model is to get a correct answer. In the constructivist model, assessments should have a student demonstrate or perform skills, and the skill is the emphasis when it comes to assessments in a constructivist model. Let's talk about the people who contributed and developed this educational philosophy. You know Piaget. He was a psychologist, and he is the one that was responsible for really developing and defining the phases of child development. Now, we also know about Vygotsky. He also was a psychologist, and he is most well known for the zone of proximal development. Now, we also have Brunner, who is a little less known. He was also a psychologist, but he took the psychology and he developed three areas: the cognitive, developmental, and educational portions of psychology. But there are two other individuals that we know really contributed to constructivism. One is John Dewey. He was an educational philosopher. So think of Big Bang Theory. He's the Sheldon side. He's the theorist side. However, did you know or did you think that Dr. Montessori, she was a physician, is on the applied side. She's on the Leonard side. She actually she developed the Montessori system, and the Montessori system is all about a child doing. So let's talk about PAR. It's an acronym. It's for present, apply, and review. So a teacher under this model should present information 35% of the time and reserve 60% of the time for the student to do. And then last of all, the review portion of the PIR system is 5%. The reason why review is important in this particular strategy or pedagogy is that the students, when they discuss what they've learned, it helps information or knowledge or learning to transfer from being in the short-term memory into the long-term memory. So I'd like to hearken back to Fred Jones in his say, see, and do. So when you say and you see, that would represent the present portion of PAR. And that would constitute, with teacher saying and demonstrating the student seeing it, should be the 35%. The doing part of Fred Jones's should constitute that 60%. So there are similarities. I'd also like to tell you that if you did, for example, the flipped classroom pedagogy or strategy, think of it as the present part, 35%, is the same. It's just done before class. And the 60% of that time can be, in fact, in your classroom. So let's talk about a couple of scenarios. I would like art to be taken care of and done in school, and it's something I plan to do for my students. So I would like to use the flipped classroom strategy, and I will have my students learn technique. Not so much, here's this picture and copy it, but learning how to sketch. Learning how things in a foreground are much larger, learning how things in the background are less detailed. By teaching those things to them and then having them do them in the right ratios, teaching them the 35% of the time and having them do the 65% of the time. And then, of course, review it. But let's take language arts. Language arts. A little first grader needs to learn how to develop and write a sentence that's bigger than, I like cheese. So what you can have them do in PAR is give them a sentence, I like cheese. That's your 35%. And you show them with the sentence, I like blue cheese. I like to make macaroni with cheddar cheese. You help them develop by showing them. But then you have them do the sentence writing, having them share a basic sentence with a partner, and then have them add adjectives or ask their question to their partner, why don't you like cheese? And have them write it down. Because they've talked about it, it'll be easier for them to actually write it down. And the key is they're the ones doing the rest of the 60% of the time. So thank you so very much. And here are our references. Have a fun time with constructivism. Thank you.